Mr. Christensen talked about disruption a long time before the AIs came, before the Ubers, the Airbnbs came. He talked about the essentials of a company, or for any organization, understanding that the future of work is looking at what you have, not seeing a problem, but seeing how can I disrupt what I have. All of the big giants, like the Nokias, all of them could have been the ones leading with AI now. I'm a pracademic being that I am not just into the research, but also practice. The theory is great, but when you strap on your boots and you're on the field, it's a totally different ballgame. The future of work is now, because today is a collection of all we've done in the past 3-4 decades.
When you talk about disrupting yourself, there are lots of people that are not in that space. They are not in that space of questioning themselves, questioning their reality, questioning their patterns. They are in this continuous cycle, keeping them where they are. I mean, you think that the people have the capacity to even act on what you are proposing right now?
True leadership is not one thing.
Yeah.
If not, leadership won't be that major area of study where people go to study all the way to PhD and still fall short in understanding what leadership is. Like I said, the major and the basic, the foundation of leadership is self-leadership. Leading from the back is one of the greatest ways to add value in anything. The framework to test if your business will be sustainable is, first of all, you must find out.
Welcome everyone to another episode. This is the Transform Network podcast. This is where you get, the insights are going to help you to change your life. They're going to help you to go to the next level. Today we have Ms. Owolola Thompson. She's a transformational leadership coach. She has a lot of titles, and I'm going to let her to introduce herself to us, because we are her students today. So, Ms. Owolola Thompson, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Please give us a little intro about yourself. And because you have a lot of achievements, I'm going to ask you, what is the achievement you're most proud of?
Thank you so much. When I coach people around interviews, I tell them, when they ask you to tell them about yourself, what you do first is just summarize it in 3 key things, telling them about your expertise, your experience, and of course the X factor, what you bring. So I'm going to use that strategy here. In terms of, I'll start with my expertise. So I am basically a human resource professional, and I have had career all over, different countries, spanning different industries for about 20 years. And even though I know I don't look 20 myself, but I've been mainly known for development and cultural projects, people operations, changing transformations at the level of organizations. And then also, as you know, the second hat that I wear is the executive coach. So I am a certified University of Cambridge executive coach. So I do a lot of coaching apart from, the strategic people projects that I do with the organization. And the third hat on is a lecturer. I'm a pracademic, not the regular academic. Pracademic being that I am not just into the research, but also practice. So I don't just know the theory. The theory is great. It gives you a shorter time to be able to get to the answers. But when you strap on your boots and you're on the field, it's a totally different ball game. So I'm a practical academic. That's a pracademic. And fourthly, which is the one I will say I'm most proud of, is I'm a mother. I'm so blessed to be one, because I think the moment I knew I was a woman, that's the moment I knew I wanted children. So, trust me, was it exactly as I thought in my head? In the span of, I've also had children in like the span of 2 decades now, and to be honest, it wasn't as easy as I thought. So in short, my expertise lies within those areas. And then my experience, I've worked, I think my first job was at the Hilton. So I've worked in hospitality. I've worked in property. I worked with the joint venture by a South African company with the Nigerian government. We did pro fund properties, and when I moved into the UK, I started with a property company. So I've done a lot of properties, and I do my own property consulting on the side. Just something I love to do. I love to do places. I'm very big on design and hospitality. So then
Yeah.
then I have
But-
experience in healthcare. I mean, healthcare from the top to the bottom, meaning from care roles to the United Nations,
Yeah.
planning strategy on global development issues around pandemics, epidemics, the whole cycle, the whole cold chain cycle, recruiting for every level of from doctors down to the care workers, just everything, the life cycle of the healthcare professional. In fact, at some point in my church, I was the president of the healthcare professionals, even though
Mm.
I was in HR. So
Yeah.
that's where my experience lies. And today I'm still in healthcare, but this time around I'm more in the AI side of
Okay.
healthcare. PBR Life Sciences. We're more into data, people, and technology. So we're using AI to solve human health problems by giving data on that. So
Yeah.
basically, that's me. The X factor for me is that I'm a Christian, and I'm very proud to say that because for the first 18 years of my life, I was a Muslim, and I loved being a Muslim at the time because that's all I knew. And from the Quran is how I became a Christian. Nobody preached to me. It was
Mm.
from researching God and wanting to be that person who I would tell people I'm a God chaser. Where he is, I want to be. I just want to know him in every way possible. And that's who I am. So that's Lola in a nutshell.
Well, that's a beautiful introduction. I knew you were gonna say something about your children. I just felt that that was gonna come in when we asked about achievements. You're gonna say something about the children, and it's actually interesting because now you are a transformational leadership coach and you deal a lot with human capital development. How what's your perspective on leadership and work leadership? I know a lot of the times when we've talked before, you've made mention of figures like John Maxwell and all of that. I think that might be your role model. So let's look into that. Let's look at the future of work. Let's look at the future of leadership, especially from your perspective.
Thank you very much. For me, the future of work is now because today is a collection of all we've done in the past, say, 3, 4 decades in the workplace. So the future of work is what we're doing now. And people might say, okay, AI, is AI going to stay? What's going to happen? People talk about a number of things, but the truth is the only thing that's going to be constant is change. So what we know now is having all the information you can get and making the best, leveraging the architecture that is present. That's the future. So it's what you're doing with what you have now. People are always thinking the future of work. I remember having a podcast during COVID, and someone said, okay, want to hear about the future of work. Tell us the future of work. And I said, well, it is now because, first of all, you need to understand the Internet of Things. You need to understand AI. Then AI wasn't this popular. You need to understand disruption. Maybe that's why I call myself a academic. I love to read, and so I'm a student of a lot of renowned scientists. And I call them scientists because they look at the historical materialism of the past to see what has happened before, what are the trends, what are the patterns, and then with that they say what can we add to that. One of the Harvard professors that I love so much because he was undeniably an unrepentant Christian, even in Harvard. Professor Christian Christensen talked about disruption a long time before the AIs came, before the Ubers, the Airbnbs came. He talked about the essentials of a company or for any organization, understanding that the future of work is looking at what you have, not seeing a problem, but seeing how can I disrupt what I have, even if you're doing well. Because in the end, and he predicted and it came to pass, because all of the big giants like the Nokias, and thank goodness Nokia is able to bounce back. But a number of them, the BlackBerry, for instance, all of them could have been the ones leading with AI now if they had thought about, or how about we build a lab within our organization and disrupt ourselves. That's think outside the box. The landscape will always change. The only constant is change. Therefore, you should look at, okay, how can I disrupt? How can I automate? How can I leverage AI? How can I accelerate my results with digitally? You need to look at those models. You need to be thinking consistently about how to disrupt yourself. You don't even need to start thinking, oh, future or anything. Right now, what's the best we can make with what I have? Because that's where the future lies.
When you talk about disrupting yourself, there are lots of people that are not in that space, right? They are not in that space of questioning themselves, questioning their realities, questioning their patterns, right? They are in this continuous cycle, keeping them where they are. I mean, I met a guy the other day on the road. I I talked to him and I was just trying to tell him that, oh, your actions are the things that have brought you to this point. And he was like, oh, yeah, he takes two steps forward and he ends up taking one step back. But there are lots of people that are not even at that stage of awareness, right? And I want to talk about that in light of this current state of human capital development. Do you think that the people have the capacity to even act on what you are proposing right now? Do they have the capacity to disrupt themselves? Do they have the capacity to do that? Or there needs to be a certain level of training? There needs to be a certain level of intentionality in order to achieve this future of work in the present right now to disrupt ourselves?
You're very correct. That's a very good question because, first of all, most people are caught in the web of the tyranny of work. You're still trying to survive. How are you going to think, have space to think? I can't recall who the very wise person that said that the only life worth living is the one that is examined. So if you do not have white space to be able to reflect on the life that you're living, you'll just be in the rat race and you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So if indeed this person is in this, spiral of doing things, trying to catch this, trying to catch that. If you don't take the time out and say, let's look at my life. How can I disrupt my life? That white space is so essential. I think it was Apostle Joshua Selman that said that every great man has a retreat. So you must find that retreat time because indeed to understand and even navigate this changing landscape of work, to find purpose, to find meaning in what you're doing, and to create that opportunity for yourself, you must be able to sit down and reflect and see how you can actually disrupt yourself.
How do we separate the work and the job? And then how exactly would someone self-engineer this disruption? What is a practical framework that someone can use to engineer this self-disruption? Maybe use an example or an illustration. Just to marry it down.
This is key. This is so key because, first of all, one has to see your life. And this is to different audiences. First, you have to ask yourself, what is the standard for my life? What am I living my life by? Is it just what people see, what I see on TV, or is it social media? Or is there a standard that I consult whenever I get confused? For me, the standard for my life is the Bible. And if the Bible says that my workplace is a mission field, in Colossians 3:23, it says, whatever you do, work heartily as unto the Lord and not men. So for me, from my very first job, I've always worked like I own the business. there was a time that I had this podcast, and the lady was asking me about everyone wanted to become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a problem solver. But the truth is, we don't all have to own businesses to become entrepreneurs. There's actually a word called intrapreneur, which means you can work a job and be an entrepreneur, meaning you're going there, seeing it as your mission field. It is shaped by God's design, and it is for your maturity. It is for God to form you into who He wants you to be. So most of us go to see what we can take. Meanwhile, that's not the whole purpose of work. The purpose of work is to shape you into what God wants you to become. And in becoming, God wants you to consider that a mission field. Who are you reaching out to? How are you contributing? How are you adding value? And as you see this, it's a combustion. You are burning inside and burning all around you. I like to see it like the fire, like the light. When the light enters into darkness, I'm not saying every workplace is darkness, but it just takes over. And the whole point is that gradually, it might be painful, it might be easy, it might be smooth, but gradually something is being formed. And so if you approach work like an entrepreneur, if you approach work like, I'm coming here to make a change, I'm coming here as a mission, I'm coming here to be changed as well, it will be a totally different ballgame. Reward. But He's a rewarder of them who diligently seek Him. That means there's a process. God is never late. Sometimes it's what He's working in you has not been achieved. And if once it is achieved, to put you in that place where you have matured and you have Christ-like leadership, boom, you get what you need. Boom, 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 those doors start to open. And that's just our mandate as Christians in the workplace. So that's my own idea of what work is and how we should approach it as Christians.
Well, I like the fact that you actually went, what was in the direction of my next question, because you said we need to, in the workplace, ask ourselves, who are we serving? Who are we serving? And I think service is the highest form of humanity. I mean, if you're a human being and you're not in service, I think you are, or maybe you are not in service to the world, you have missed the point, because purpose lies in service. How then, because you mentioned Christ, the leadership of Christ, how then do we tie service, leadership, and working under a structure together?
Thank you. You're very correct. Christ came as a servant leader. In the book of Mark 10:45, he says clearly that even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. If you see the greatest brands, they did not present their advert as someone that is coming to take from you. They even make you want to give them the money because the service and the value add. And what is service? Adding value is service. So if you're in the corporate world, you have to be positioning yourself as adding value enough to be able to attract that demand. You're creating demand for your service. That's why I said there's an entrepreneur in anybody that you can see that is growing in their career is because they're an entrepreneur. They know how to manage upwards, they know how to manage downwards, they know how to relate to customers, they know how to relate in their organization. So as a servant leadership is a humble service anywhere in the world. Every good leader. I've read so many books on leadership, and top of which a lot of them are by John Maxwell, and one that I really recommend to a lot of people is The High Road Leader. The High Road Leader is fantastic. I think it's in Becoming that the book Becoming by Michelle Obama, that she says, when they go low, you go high. Because the greatest leaders are not the people that call themselves leaders. The most important form of leadership is self-leadership. If you cannot lead yourself, please don't attempt to lead others, because everything rises and falls on leadership. And once you can lead yourself, then it's easier to lead others. The same John Maxwell says, it is the leader that does not have a follower is only taking a stroll, because your leadership is determined by the perception of the people you lead. What do they see in you? that they want to follow you. How do you show up as a leader? Because when you show up and people see that this person, their authority flows from humility. There are people that will take you for granted. That's a given. Because some people just don't have the wisdom to perceive good leadership. So when they see people humble, they feel like that's the opportunity to trample on them. But you shake it off and say, no, this person doesn't deserve my, and you find a way to, build your boundaries. But you must always show up humble, because that's how Jesus showed us. That's the example that Jesus showed us. Because God came on earth, and he didn't come on earth and go to the king's palaces and say, you, Herod, die now, let me sit down. No. Instead, he went to the low of the lowest. Regardless of the riches he had in heaven, he was willing to come as a carpenter's son. And so your leadership posture should always be in the humble service. I remember I was employed to head the HR of an organization in Nigeria. So I went from here, and in the organization, they're used to the authoritarian kind of leadership where the leader comes and says, do this, do that, do that. But I don't do that. Instead, I would say, oh, come guys, come and tell me, what do you think? And my team members, they didn't know I was Nigerian really, because the whole plan was they wanted someone that was external to just fix things. So I heard them speaking my dialect. They didn't know I could speak Yoruba, and they said to themselves that, where did they bring this Black American from? She doesn't know anything. Oh, there's a word we call it akata. They said, where did they bring her from? She doesn't know anything. Everything she come and ask us what we think. Our other madam will just send us. What is this one saying? And I laughed, because that is the kind of leadership that destroys. It destroys initiative. It destroys creative thinking. It destroys workmanship, such that people are proud of what they're doing. When people say you're a leader, you should be the chief empowerment officer. You're empowering people. You're adding value everywhere you go. You're removing obstacles to people, in people's lives, to make them thrive. You're a facilitator for growth. That's who a leader is. So it's easy to align all three if you're doing it right.
So which of them will you categorize as really true leadership?
True leadership is not one thing.
Oh, nice.
It's not one thing, because if not, leadership won't be that major area of study where people go to study all the way to leadership, to PhD, and still fall short in understanding what leadership is. People will tell you leadership is servant leadership. Yes, it is, because that's the posture. They will tell you leadership is perception, because it's what is determined by the followers. And yes, it is, because that is the presentation. People have to understand that this person's a leader, and it's not until you direct them or push them around or show them or talk down on them. No. So your positioning, your posture, and how you show up in terms of empathy, your relational intelligence, where you're able to show people that, okay, I'm in your shoes. What do you need? How can I make your life easier? That's leadership.
Can we talk about leading from the back? Because I think you've mentioned that to me before, because we're going to go to how, the future trends of, work and leadership, human capital development. What do you think is coming? So before we get into that aspect, just say something on leading from the back.
Yes, like I said, leadership, the major and the foundation of leadership is self-leadership. So imagine if you have an organization and everybody there is leading themselves. How easy will it be to actually succeed? I think it's Jay Barney that talks about Vrain, and I'll talk about Vrain when we talk about the future of work. Imagine if everybody in that team is leading themselves. It will be so easy to succeed. Leaders do not succeed because they are so brilliant. They are actually successful because they have a good team. So in the sense of it, if we're going to look at what leadership is that force behind the leadership. And that's why I say leading from the back is one of the greatest ways to add value in anything. Unfortunately, because a lot of people like to, now with social media and everything, want to showcase ourselves. Oh, look at me, I'm the one that did this. True leadership is actually that force that makes the leader succeed. And that's leadership from the back.
What do you see happening in that space regarding, the trends? I believe that the new technologies like AI, they are here to help, not necessarily here to cause a lot of trouble, as many people say. Yes, a lot of things are going to change, but in your own perspective and in your own experience, what do you think are the trends that we're heading into? Will they be instrumental to the future of leadership and also the future of work?
One of the strengths or one of the key ingredients of being a leader is your adaptability and innovation. And therefore, currently, I don't like to say future because as we speak, things are changing. I was in a panel just now in the afternoon, and someone was saying he wants all his children to learn how to code to be able to actually make something out of whatever field they study. And I said they don't even need to learn how to code anymore because we have base 44 and they did not pay me. But I can tell you, all you need to do is put in your put in your idea and it will build for you. We also have cloud. That's CLAUDE. This is AI that an organization had to shut down because the developers will do this in 6 weeks. Yeah, it will do the coding and programming and building in 6 weeks. This AI does it in 30 minutes. 30, and this is not an exaggeration. You can just go and find out. So even then, you don't even need to go and learn coding again. All you need to do right now is to be aware, and like I said, just look at what you're doing and say, how can I do it better? In fact, if you Google how can I do this better, or go to any AI, go to any chat, GPT, Gemini, Micro, any of them, just say, okay, how can I do this better? I want to cook this. How can I cook it better? Disrupt yourself. That's the secret. Because yes, the Internet of Things, everything came out of that. We would wear wristwatches and the motivation was to tell time. Now, when the phones came, people stopped wearing wristwatches. Guess what? They had to disrupt themselves. And my wristwatch tells me now, okay, this is your goal for the day. How are we going to meet it? My wristwatch tells me my blood pressure. My wristwatch tells me how many steps I've taken. My wristwatch tells me when I'm swimming, how long I've swum. My wristwatch does much more than that. If they only stayed at the place of wristwatch, they're not going to move forward. So the secret is disruption. Each person has to sit with themselves and think, how do I disrupt myself? So yes, we have all these devices and all those things, and we're just using. But a leader in this digital economy must think, I cannot be a digital consumer only. I have to be a digital leader. If you tell yourself that every day, you will find your way out. Because if you're only consuming, of course, you will still be in that rat race, chasing the next pound because things are getting more expensive. Jobs are not paying more. But you can disrupt yourself out. And it's all about service. Every product
Yes.
is about service. If you lead the market, is how much value do you bring to people?
I want you to quickly touch on being valuable, value exchange. There hasn't been any time more strict than this, where people would demand you to have commensurate value for whatever it is that they're exchanging you for, exchanging with you, that aspect. And then tell me the source of your convictions.
Okay.
What makes you sure that, what you're saying right now is something that is going to fly, or is it just going to just work for the moment?
When I started, I said I'm a pracademic. And that means I'm not just working on the field, I'm also studying to disrupt and think, what should I do differently? And there's some age-long principles, like I said, theories, they help you to shorten time. J.B. Barney in 1991 developed this very important tool for sustaining competition, for sustaining competitive advantage for an organization. Why should I choose you? That's the bottom line. So he says, VRIN, the framework to test if your business will be sustainable is, first of all, you must find out, is that result valuable? Is it just you? If you cook and only you find it valuable, well, it has to be rare. Rare, you are selling rarity. So that means they can't find a substitution for it. It's not easily found. Thirdly, it must be non-imitable, very difficult to make, because right now, the kind of gig economy that we have, you make one thing, someone works on your once you develop an app, someone is improving on it the next second. So you have to be able to sit down and think, is my product valuable? Is it rare? Is it inimitable? Is it easy to make something like that? Then is not substitutable. When I say the reason why Coca-Cola, for instance, has stayed the test of time is because when they were thinking of making Coke, they weren't thinking of surpassing another drink. They were thinking of competing with water. So they were thinking long term. They were thinking what's the stickiness? How long what is addictive? And these are the things that you should be thinking about as well. If you're building any business online, what is it that people will every day, no matter what, somebody will need it. It is of value. Also, is it rare? Am I creating an experience that is memorable that someone will tell somebody? And what makes things rare? We're talking about integrity and trust, things like that they know that no, they don't really find it everywhere now. It's as scarce as can be. You're talking about transparency, policy of transparency, your clear value-based offering that people know that no, if I go to McDonald's in China, it's going to taste exactly like McDonald's. If I go to McDonald's in Kuala Lumpur, it's going to taste exactly like McDonald's. They're not going to try and give me paper or something else. So that's it. Those are the things. It has not changed since 1991. How many years ago is that? It's still the same. And it's going to be the same way forever. Because you have to be bringing in that value, that rarity, that inimitable, and they're not substitutable. So even if everybody is making burgers, people won't get that cheap burger. And you now look, because they disrupted themselves to say, come on, we can't make money on burger, we better start doing real estate. So real estate is their business, burger is an add-on. Do you understand? So it's just about the basics, getting to if you don't sit down, reflect on what you have. You don't even need to start thinking of 100 things. What you have. How can I 10x it in a way that is valuable, in a way that it is rare, in a way that is inimitable, in a way that is non-substitutable. Thank you.
That was wonderful. I would love you to round up with some final words, because I believe that entrepreneurs are people that build organizations to solve a problem, right? And your value is actually derived from you solving problems, just as you said. And if we apply those principles as you've talked about, making ourselves rare, making ourselves valuable, desired, even addictive, if that is even possible. Yeah. What final words, based on this conversation, would you like to leave with someone that is currently building?
Okay. If you are a builder, I'm hoping that you're a Christian builder. And if you are, lead with your faith, lead with your integrity, lead with your love. And along with it, have your technology fluency, have data wisdom, understand data, make decisions based on data, and be clear, be fluent about that. Also, don't forget your emotional and spiritual intelligence. You need both of them, because emotions can sometimes misdirect us. We might feel a certain way, but we must always engage the spirit to actually tell us the truth. Then you have to have a global mindset, because you're no longer you're not competing with the people around you. You're competing with the world. One of my degrees is in globalization. So I can tell you, the world became a global village at least 20 years ago. So don't think that I'm going to only produce or develop a product for people in my locality, because you lie. The people in your locality are buying things from China. They're buying things from all over the globe, from Nigeria, from all over the world. So you have to have a global mindset and you have to have cross-cultural fluency. That means you understand the culture of other people. Also, don't forget that what's one of the non-substitutable assets of a Christian is your ethical courage to stand up in the in the midst of lies, to have a kingdom vision. It might not always be easy. Trust me, it's not. It's not even easy at all. But like the word of God says, yes, there's tribulation, but he said we have overcome the world. So that's my last word.
That's a beautiful one. I should have asked this earlier, but whatever the case may be, our true model has to be Christ, and every vision of the kingdom is always global in scope. Just like as you have said, the world is a global vision. We shouldn't be having local visions, right? We shouldn't be having local orientation of whatever it is that we're doing. How does faith tie into that, and how has faith played a role in who you are, what you understand currently, and where you're going?
My faith and how it has impacted my leadership style. One of the things that I ask myself, WWJD, what would Jesus do? So it helps me to reflect if my leadership style is rooted in, Christ's example of service. Sometimes I'm not always going to act like that, but like, I think, I don't remember who said this, but said, yes, the thoughts can come, but don't let them build a nest in your head. So I have acted based on kingdom principles, but I make sure I don't create a pattern. So I make my mistakes and learn from them. And that has helped me to be able to be resilient. I mean, I've shocked myself in many ways. The things that I've done, the work, jobs that I have done, and how I've navigated the different roles. Sometimes it's just been strictly because I was a Christian. If not, I wouldn't have survived those roles. So once you commit to leading with faith, with integrity, with love, and you will find that somehow, and you make the Bible the standard for your life, you engage your emotional and spiritual intelligence, you'll find that at the 11th hour, if you listen to the Holy Spirit, you'll be directed right. I believe it was 30 years in June last year since I actually became a Christian. It just told me, I would look back at who I was before that, every year, how God has shaped me by things that I never in my wildest dreams would think would happen to me. The whole purpose is for your maturity in Christianity. Sometimes we think it's about money. It's not about money. Money has its place, but it has never been about money. It's about who you become at the end of it. God is still working on you, working on each and every one of us. If you become a Christian, you're going to have the fruits. So the fruits of patience, the fruits, they're going to be developed in you. And it's you that will determine how long the journey is going to be. So when you yield, I've learned to yield. I mean, I was a very stubborn person. I won't even lie. But I can tell you that every day I'm grateful to God for the work that He's working in me and the maturity that I even see in myself. I say, wow, and it's a daily, it's a journey. And I told God every time, I'm up for it. Let's go. Let's go. I'm ready. It can be tough, but He's taking me places that I never imagined in my wildest dreams, because I've been submitted to Him.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today. We're really grateful and we're really honored to have had you, and we have learned a lot. And I'm sure that anyone that listens to this is going to walk away with something that is going to change their life, change the trajectory of their life forever. Thank you so much, Mrs. Lola. All the links to find her will be in the description. So thank you, guys. We'll see you on the next.
Thank you so much, Areva. Thank you for having me. It was a delight to be here. Thank you.